Every day, we see the darker side of the world around us. We witness how people can hurt others in ways that are hard to understand. It's a sad part of life, but it's something we can't ignore. As someone who dives into the world of crime, I'm here to share the most shocking stories and try to understand what drives people to do such things. I'm Michael, and today, I've got another unreal true crime story for you. It was a quiet morning on February 24th, 2023, until chaos broke out in the Bamfield home. Shouts and screams echoed from the upstairs bedroom, followed by the sound of gunshots. When police arrived, they found a scene that didn't quite make sense: two bodies, a knife, and a story that felt off. What really happened that day? How did things spiral so out of control? As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered shocking secrets that turned this into a story of betrayal, conspiracy, and murder. In 2003, at the age of 18, Christine enrolled at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut to pursue a degree in nursing. In 2004, during her first year of college, she met Brendan Robert Banfield, and before long the two started dating. Christine graduated in 2007, and the following year, in 2008, Brendan proposed to her. Their engagement lasted nearly 2 years, culminating in their marriage on June 12th, 2010. Christine was a devoted nurse who loved her job, often working grueling 16-hour night shifts. Despite the exhausting schedule, she found fulfillment in her work. On social media, she occasionally shared her fitness journey at a local gym, where Brendan would sometimes join her. Friends of the couple noted how Brendan was always supportive, encouraging Christine in her workouts and complimenting her progress. Christine once posted about how happy she felt when Brendan motivated her, especially after he noticed the positive changes her healthy routine brought to her life. Brendan, on the other hand, was more reserved online, rarely sharing personal details. He worked as a federal agent in the tax department, investigating fraud and tax evasion cases. Together, Christine and Brendan built a life that reflected their shared efforts and deep connection. They enjoyed attending football games, hosting parties, taking vacations, and traveling abroad. They were the picture of a typical American couple, meeting young and dreaming of a bright future together. The couple initially lived in New York before relocating to Herndon, Virginia. Their home, valued at over $1 million, was in one of the city's most desirable neighborhoods. Financially stable, both enjoyed excellent salaries and a comfortable lifestyle. Their jobs sometimes required travel, which meant they were occasionally apart for work. In one social media post, Christine mentioned having to leave their dog at a pet hotel because both she and Brendan were traveling for work simultaneously. In October 2017, Christine, then 32, announced on social media that she was 3 months pregnant. On March 30th, 2018, she gave birth to a baby girl. From then on, Christine's social media posts reflected her joy as a mother, sharing pictures of her family. In 2019, the Banfields decided to join the Culture Care Au Pair program. For those unfamiliar, the program facilitates cultural exchange, allowing au pairs to live with families abroad, care for their children, and study, all while receiving accommodation, meals, and a stipend. In April 2019, Amanda, a young Brazilian woman, joined the family through the au pair program. Over the next 2 years, Amanda developed a close bond with the family. She shared photos of their trips, celebrations, and everyday life, showing a strong relationship with the Banfields. Christine even referred to Amanda as part of the family. Amanda's time with the Banfields ended in 2021, but she extended her stay for 6 months due to global travel restrictions. Encouraged by their positive experience, the Banfields sought another au pair, specifically someone Brazilian. They met Juliana Perez Magalhães, a 23-year-old nurse from São Paulo, Brazil. Juliana arrived in late 2021 after completing the au pair application process. Like Amanda, Juliana developed a good relationship with the family. While not as close as Amanda had been, her connection with the Banfields seemed strong enough for them to extend her stay for another year. However, everything changed on February 24, 2023. At approximately 7:50 a.m., a brief 911 call was made from Juliana's phone but ended abruptly. 13 minutes later, another call came through, during which Juliana reported that a friend was injured. Moments later, Brendan took the phone and told the dispatcher he had found his wife, Christine, with stab wounds in their upstairs bedroom and had shot a man named Ryan. Police arrived within 10 minutes to find Ryan deceased and Christine gravely injured in the upstairs bedroom. Christine was rushed to a nearby hospital after the incident. Fortunately, the couple's 4-year-old daughter, who was in the house at the time, was unharmed. However, Christine succumbed to her injuries and passed away shortly after arriving at the hospital. Brendan was also hospitalized due to a leg injury. Preliminary reports from the police revealed that the deceased man found at the scene was Joseph Ryan, a 38-year-old. According to the initial investigation, Ryan allegedly broke into the Banfield home, attacked Christine with a knife, and was fatally shot by Brendan shortly thereafter. This was all the information made available at the time. After being discharged from the hospital, Brendan refused to speak with the detectives or the media about the events that had unfolded. Juliana, on the other hand, cooperated fully. She provided her account to the police, signing a formal statement. Juliana claimed that on the morning of the incident, she had arrived at the Banfield residence for work and witnessed Joseph Ryan forcefully entering the home. Panicked, she called Brendan, who was not home at the time, and asked for help. Brendan reportedly advised her to stay calm and assured her he would be there within minutes. Juliana stated that she waited outside the house for her safety until Brendan arrived. Once he got there, the two entered the home together and found Christine gravely injured. They also came face to face with Joseph Ryan, who was still inside. According to her account, a physical altercation ensued between Brendan and Ryan, during which Brendan managed to grab a firearm kept in the house and fired multiple shots at Ryan, killing him. Brendan later corroborated Juliana's account, claiming he acted in self-defense. However, one puzzling detail emerged from Juliana's statement. She mentioned arriving at the Banfield home early that morning to start her work. This raised questions, as au pair typically reside in the homes of their host families. It remained unclear where Juliana had been before arriving at the house. For months, the police withheld information about the investigation, opting to keep their findings confidential. Meanwhile, neighbors reported seeing Juliana at the Banfield residence frequently. Though it was uncertain whether she was still living there, she was often seen with the couple's daughter, leading to speculation that she might still be working as her nanny. By August 2023, Juliana posted on social media that she was looking for a nanny position in the area. Given that au pairs are not allowed to seek additional employment while participating in the program, this suggested that Juliana was no longer part of the program at that point. After more than 7 months of investigation, law enforcement pieced together key evidence and forensic data to shed light on the case. According to Juliana's own statements to her family in Brazil, the police concluded that Joseph Ryan had killed Christine due to a disagreement, as the two had allegedly been in a relationship. However, the case took a shocking turn on October 19, 2023, when Juliana was arrested. She was taken by surprise as the police charged her with second-degree murder, alleging that it was she, not Brendan, who had fired the fatal shots at Joseph Ryan. Investigators also concluded that Brendan had not been home at the time of the shooting, contradicting their earlier statements. Juliana was subsequently taken to the Fairfax County Detention Center. Initially, the public rallied behind Juliana, hailing her as a hero who acted in defense of the family that had welcomed her into their home. Many sympathized with Brendan as well, believing he had lied to protect Juliana, knowing her temporary visa status could jeopardize her future in the country. However, police later revealed that there were no signs of forced entry at the Bamfield residence, suggesting that Joseph Ryan may have been let in willingly, potentially by Christine herself. Questions also arose about whether Juliana had known Joseph Ryan prior to the incident. These revelations shifted public opinion dramatically. Supporters began to doubt Juliana's version of events as theories circulated online. The most popular theory suggested that Juliana and Brendan had been romantically involved and had orchestrated the incident to eliminate Christine. Speculation grew that a divorce would have forced Brendan to split his assets with Christine, so he and Juliana allegedly staged an attack, using Joseph Ryan as a scapegoat. Another theory proposed that Brendan and Juliana had been traveling together on the day of the incident and returned home to find Christine and Joseph confronting them. In this scenario, Joseph was believed to be a private investigator hired by Christine to confirm her suspicions about an affair. A violent altercation ensued, resulting in Christine and Joseph's deaths. A third theory speculated that Christine and Joseph had been romantically involved, and that Brendan, upon discovering them together, killed them both in a fit of rage. Juliana, loyal to Brendan, allegedly covered for him, and the two began a relationship afterward. During her first court hearing, Juliana testified that on the morning of the incident, Christine had given her and the 4-year-old daughter tickets to the zoo so she could have some alone time. According to Juliana, Christine had planned to meet Joseph Ryan, whom she had met on a dating site. Juliana claims she had forgotten the child's lunch and returned to the house to retrieve it, only to see an unfamiliar car parked in the driveway and a man, later identified as Joseph Ryan, entering the house. Alarmed, Juliana called Brendan, who instructed her to wait outside until he arrived. When Brendan arrived, they both entered the house together. Juliana admitted to making the initial 911 call, but hanging up quickly, unsure of what to say. Juliana took the Bamfield's young daughter to the basement for safety, while Brendan grabbed his firearm and prepared to confront the situation. Moments later, noises from the upstairs bedroom caught their attention. They rushed to the room and found Joseph Ryan standing over Christine, who was lying naked on the bed, while Joseph, still dressed, held a knife. Brendan pointed his gun at Joseph, demanding he drop the weapon, but Joseph threatened to harm Christine if Brendan didn't lower his gun. What happened next was a chaotic and horrifying series of events. Joseph began stabbing Christine as Brendan fired his gun. Most of the shots missed their mark, failing to incapacitate Joseph, who continued attacking Christine. Desperate, Brendan yelled to Juliana to retrieve another firearm stored in a safe in the bathroom. When Juliana returned, instead of handing the gun to Brendan, she fired a fatal shot into Joseph's heart, ending the attack. The two then called 911 to report what had happened. Juliana's defense relied on this account, arguing that she acted purely in self-defense. However, The prosecution painted an entirely different picture during the hearing. They alleged that Brendan and Juliana had been romantically involved for months and that the entire incident had been premeditated. According to the prosecution, Brendan pretended to leave for work that morning but stayed nearby, waiting for a call from Juliana. The prosecution claimed that Joseph Ryan was lured to the Banfield home under false pretenses, believing he was meeting Christine for a romantic encounter. Allegedly, either Brendan or Juliana had created a fake profile of Christine on a dating site, communicating with Joseph to arrange the meeting. Friends and family of Christine who later saw these conversations described them as odd, claiming the writing style didn't match Christine's. On the day of the crime, Joseph reportedly arrived at the house and was greeted by Juliana, explaining the lack of forced entry. Shortly after, he was ambushed by Brendan, according to the prosecution's theory. They argued that the couple meticulously planned the scene to eliminate Christine, thus allowing Brendan to avoid dividing his assets in a divorce and to live a wealthy life with Juliana. A witness from a shooting range testified that Brendan and Juliana had visited the facility 2 months before the crime. Additionally, Brendan returned alone a month later to purchase a firearm, the same firearm Juliana used to kill Joseph. Investigators also revealed that both Brendan and Juliana replaced their cell phones just 4 days before the incident, which prosecutors saw as further evidence of premeditation. Photos taken of the Banfield home after Juliana's arrest showed significant changes. The room that had once belonged to Juliana was empty, and her belongings, clothing, makeup, and personal items, had been moved into Brendan's bedroom. All photos of Christine and Brendan with their daughter had been removed and replaced with pictures of Brendan and Juliana, some of which included the child. While Juliana's defense acknowledged the possibility of a relationship between her and Brendan, they insisted it was not serious. They argued that both Brendan and Christine had been unfaithful to each other, casting doubt on the prosecution's narrative of a well-planned conspiracy. Brendan invoked the Fifth Amendment during his testimony, refusing to answer questions that could incriminate him, and provided minimal responses throughout the hearing. The prosecution also brought up Juliana's attempt to obtain a new passport while her original had been confiscated during the investigation. They argued that this suggested an intent to flee the country. Juliana's defense countered, explaining that they had advised her to apply for a new passport as a valid form of identification, emphasizing there was no plan to escape. Despite this, the judge denied Juliana bail, ordering her to remain in custody until her trial. Meanwhile, Brendan was released but remained under investigation. Initially, he claimed responsibility for shooting Joseph Ryan, but after forensic evidence proved Juliana had fired the fatal shot, he altered his account. The Banfield's daughter was placed in the care of relatives as the legal proceedings continued. Months later, on September 16, 2024, police arrested Brendan Banfield, charging him with first-degree murder for the deaths of both Christine and Joseph. Prosecutors allege that Brendan had conspired to kill them at the family's home, using a firearm in the commission of the crime. While the authorities did not disclose specific evidence linking Brendan to the murders, they revealed that he and Juliana had planned a trip to Brazil just days before his arrest. During Brendan's first hearing, it was revealed that his relationship with Juliana began in August 2022, nearly a year after she started working for the family. At the time, Juliana had been in a long-distance relationship with a boyfriend in Brazil. The prosecution presented evidence that, a month before the crime, Brendan and Juliana had traveled together to New York, stayed in a hotel, and attended a show. On the morning of the incident, Brendan claimed he left home at 7:11 a.m. and stopped at a McDonald's for coffee, a routine part of his commute. He said he received a call from Juliana around 7:37 a.m., reporting that an unknown man had entered the house. Brendan said he rushed home, leaving his breakfast unfinished. However, during the hearing, prosecutors played the recording of Juliana's initial 911 call, which lasted only 8 seconds. In the background, Joseph Ryan could be heard groaning in pain before the call abruptly ended. When asked about this, Brendan claimed the dropped call was due to their inability to locate the phone after it fell. He admitted to instructing Juliana to retrieve the second firearm from the bathroom safe as a precaution. However, instead of handing him the gun, Juliana used it to shoot Joseph in the heart. The timeline of events raised significant questions. Authorities noted a 13-minute gap between Juliana's first 911 call and her second. Joseph Ryan was already injured by the time of the first 911 call, raising questions about why it took Brendan and Juliana 13 minutes to make the second call. Authorities believe this time was used to stage the crime scene. According to the prosecutor, Joseph's body was repositioned to make it appear as though he had been actively attacking Christine. Investigators revealed that the knife found at the scene belonged to Joseph Ryan and had been brought by him in a backpack. In conversations with the person he thought was Christine, Joseph had been encouraged to bring the knife due to a shared interest in certain fantasies. The website where Christine and Joseph communicated was geared toward casual encounters with a focus on fetishes involving pain and pleasure. This detail, authorities argued, conveniently supplied Brendan and Juliana with a prop to frame the scene. Paramedics who responded to the incident noted several inconsistencies. Both Christine and Joseph's bodies appeared to have been moved and repositioned. Joseph's arms were crossed and stained with Christine's blood in a way that would not have been possible given the fatal shot he sustained to the chest. Additionally, while paramedics worked to save Christine, Brendan reportedly showed little concern for her condition, asking repeatedly whether Joseph was still alive. Authorities believe this indicated Brendan's fear that Joseph might survive and reveal the truth about what happened. Blood spatter analysis further supported the theory of staging. Reports from forensic investigators, finalized in August 2023, confirmed that both Christine and Joseph had been moved after sustaining their fatal injuries. This evidence, along with text messages and witness statements, began to piece together the chain of events leading up to the crime. Before the incident, Joseph had confided in a friend about his communications with Christine. He mentioned that she claimed her marriage was open and that both she and her husband pursued relationships with others. Based on their online conversations, Joseph shared explicit details, including photos of the items he planned to bring to their encounter: a knife, cuffs, and belts. He also mentioned plans to cut Christine's pajamas with the knife, which matched the discovery of a torn pajama set in the bedroom. However, police found that Joseph had never spoken with Christine over the phone or through video chat. This detail became critical to the case. Authorities suspected that the person behind the profile was either Brendan or Juliana. If Joseph had spoken to Juliana, her distinct Brazilian accent would have raised suspicions, yet none of Joseph's friends mentioned him bringing up such a detail. Investigators speculated that Brendan might have fabricated a backstory to explain any discrepancies, such as claiming Christine had lived in Brazil for a time, accounting for the accent. Joseph's friends, who were interviewed by police, described him as a peaceful individual and expressed disbelief that he could have harmed Christine. They believed he had been manipulated into the situation, which ultimately led to his death. Between Juliana's arrest on October 19, 2023, and Brendan's arrest on September 16, 2024, the two maintained consistent contact. In a recorded conversation, Juliana questioned Brendan, saying, I hope you're not staying with me just because you're afraid I'll turn on you." Brendan responded by telling her to be quiet. This exchange, among other pieces of evidence, raised further suspicion of their involvement in the crime. By late October 2024, Juliana agreed to a plea deal to avoid a full trial. She pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and agreed to testify against Brendan at his upcoming trial, scheduled for February 2025. The prosecution stated that Juliana's sentencing would depend heavily on her testimony and the outcome of Brendan's case. During her confession, Juliana revealed how Brendan masterminded the entire plan. Their romantic relationship began in August 2022, roughly a year after Juliana started working for the family. By fall 2023, Brendan expressed his desire to get rid of Christine and began orchestrating the crime. Using a fake profile on an adult dating site that catered to fetish-based fantasies, Brendan posed as Christine and initiated contact with Joseph Ryan. Over time, he lured Joseph into arranging a meeting at the Banfield home, instructing him to bring specific items, including a knife. To make the setup more convincing, Brendan asked Juliana to speak to Joseph via a voice call on Telegram, pretending to be Christine. Juliana confessed that she was reluctant to participate but ultimately complied. On the day of the incident, Brendan waited nearby after leaving the house under the pretense of heading to work. He instructed Juliana to handle Joseph's arrival and to play along with the charade. Juliana admitted to feeling trapped and fearful, but said Brendan's control over her left her with little choice. Juliana followed the plan and made the calls as instructed. However, Christine's phone went straight to voicemail because Brendan, before leaving that morning, had turned it off and hidden it in a kitchen drawer. Brendan, waiting at a nearby McDonald's, received Juliana's call and pretended to attempt to call Christine, knowing full well it would also go to voicemail. He then returned to the house, picked up Juliana and the couple's daughter, and entered the home through the basement. They left the child there before heading upstairs to the bedroom Brendan shared with Christine. Brendan carried his service weapon, and Juliana had the firearm Brendan had given her earlier that morning. When they entered the bedroom, they found Joseph holding Christine, who was naked. Brendan shouted, "Police!" before shooting Joseph in the head, causing him to fall away from Christine. Juliana then made the first 911 call, during which Joseph could be heard groaning in pain. Following Brendan's instructions, Juliana ended the call prematurely. Afterward, Brendan grabbed the knife Joseph had brought and stabbed Christine multiple times. Meanwhile, the 911 operator attempted to call back, but Juliana did not answer. Then Juliana noticed Joseph was still moving. She fired the fatal shot into his heart, as later confirmed by the medical examiner. Brendan then staged the crime scene, moving Christine and Joseph's bodies closer together to make it appear as though Joseph had attacked Christine. Once the staging was complete, Brendan instructed Juliana to make a second 911 call, in which she reported that an intruder had broken into the Banfield home and attacked Christine. When the police and paramedics arrived, Brendan accompanied Christine to the hospital while Juliana went to the police department with the couple's daughter. The events that followed became the subject of widespread public scrutiny. Juliana's confession left little doubt that the crime was a conspiracy orchestrated by her and Brendan to murder Christine and begin a life together. Brendan's trial is set for February 2025, with Juliana's sentencing scheduled to follow shortly thereafter. Joseph Ryan's mother has avoided interviews to respect the investigation, but made a poignant social media post after Brendan's arrest, stating that living without her only son has been unbearably difficult. She added that her hope for justice is the only thing keeping her going. Both Christine's and Brendan's families have expressed deep shock and sorrow over the events. Christine was laid to rest at Queen of All Saints Cemetery in Suffolk County, New York. Meanwhile, the couple's 6-year-old daughter is reportedly under the care of close relatives. As for Joseph Ryan, no information about his funeral has been made public. The families involved remain haunted by the tragedy, while the nation watches closely for justice to be served. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.